Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to How to Raise a Better Mom with me, Abdullah, and
me, Mariam Khan.
On Stream Islam. You can listen to us on all IDC platforms. That's YouTube and Facebook. And we are sponsored by One Nation Childcare. So, yes. So, yeah, welcome to How to Raise a Happy Mother. As I said, I'm Abdullah. I have a 10-month-old. And Mariam, how old's Amana?
A 2-year-old.
So, a few steps ahead in regards to age. So in this series, we're going to be discussing how to maintain our mental, physical, and spiritual health after having a baby. So we've been through spiritual health and spoke about how to maintain our iman or keep going after having a baby. And today we're going to be talking about physical health. So yes,
physical or mental health?
Physical health today. I know that's what episode you're looking forward to.
Sorry.
So basically for the mental health show, I have a dear friend who works for Mind and I'm trying to convince her to come. We have our own experiences, and as with every bit of advice we share, obviously everybody's experience is different. And a lot of these things are easier said than done. So these are just our own personal experiences. That's not to put pressure on anybody or make anybody feel bad that they're not doing anything that's mentioned in the show. But for the mental health one, I thought, inshallah, if we can get somebody, a professional who knows a little bit more about the subject, it would be good. If not, then inshallah, we'll just discuss our own. I'm sure we definitely have plenty to discuss on that matter. But it's physical health this week, inshallah. So how's your Ramadan going?
I'm tired.
I know, Mariam, but Allah reward her. She's tired, and that's actually very good because in this episode we are going to be talking about sleep. Because when I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the physical effects, not going into the medical, but just the general physical effects, the biggest one for me was sleep. So that's something we'll get onto. But when you have a baby, you may feel like all of your focus and energy should be dedicated to your newborn, especially I think I can only say for myself, but especially when it's your first one. Maybe after the third or fourth, you don't care. But your baby is entirely dependent on you. So obviously it's natural to feel like that. But putting your attention on all of your attention on your baby and not taking care of your own health can be detrimental to both of you. So obviously if you don't take care of yourself, then how are you going to be able to take care of your baby? And the physical, like I said about the experiences, even the physical symptoms can be unique to each person. I think every pregnancy and childbirth experience is different. And some people may feel just a little bit sore, or some people might feel like they've been hit by a truck or something, especially with it, depending on the labour as well. If you had a cesarean or a natural birth, there's all those different factors. But in the early days of postpartum period, there are several symptoms medically speaking. But as I said, I just want to talk about it more generally. And you actually touched upon the first one, and that is sleep. I think for me, because sleep is the one thing that has a knock-on effect to everything. Because we're going to talk about later on about, eating and getting a little bit of movement in and all that kind of thing. But sleep is one thing that will, if you're not well rested and exhausted, the rest is kind of out the window. So how, like I said,
sorry.
Go on.
Because like lack of sleep can have knock-on effects, like you said, like decreasing life expectancy as well.
Massively, on a health level, even without talking about the context of being a parent. But sleep, just generally speaking, life expectancy, physical health, illness, it has like you said.
And also, do you know, like when you're sleep deprived and you're like very, very tired, the studies have shown that like the more tired a person is, the less empathy that they have to people around them.
Really?
And that can include your own children. So it's vital that, like, especially new mums, get that sleep. As it's vital that like you get sleep anyways, but especially as a new mum, and new dads, I guess, to that extension. Because have you heard of things like where parents they get so frustrated, like they shake the babies and stuff.
Yeah, I
Shaking
was
baby
told that
syndrome.
by my
Yeah.
midwife. Yeah.
So like when that happens, a lot of it can be the parents not knowing how to deal with a crying baby, not being able to figure out why the baby's crying. And I feel really, really bad for those babies that are suffering from like colic. But
Yes.
the parents have that responsibility to each other to make sure that they're keeping each other in check.
Mm,
So you don't want your empathy levels lowered because of tiredness. And then on top of that, doing something that you're going to just that is so regrettable. I'm not
mm,
going to say everyone's going to go down that route, but it's one of those things that
no.
can lead down to that reason of like sleep deprivation, just pure exhaustion, entering a new phase of life that is parenthood, and then also taking on those risky behaviors. Because then, especially if from a non-Muslim perspective,
Mm,
you might end up turning to like coping mechanisms, which might
yes.
involve drink and drugs.
Mm,
So I can't even begin to imagine like what it's going to be like for that child,
yes.
having to be in that environment growing up as well. So it's not good, and that's why I would say like it's good for the parents to take turns having sleep, and especially like for the mum, the spouse, or the father giving the mum the time that
Mm,
she needs to rest and recuperate,
yeah.
inshallah.
No, that's a fantastic point.
Yeah,
I did not know about the researchers
yeah,
the research on empathy. That's really, really
yeah.
interesting. And just goes to show how detrimental it can be if you don't.
Exactly. Sorry, can I just add as
No,
well?
of
It's
course,
it's
go for it.
because do you know like when your child cries, normally they could have hurt themselves, or they could
Yes.
just be whinging. Like at 2 years old, my daughter just that she's just gone through a very whingy phase and just
Oh,
like, oh, I'm crying over everything. Doesn't get the lolly she wants. Oh, it's the end of the world, right?
oh, mama
Um,
bad.
and sometimes like you can deal with that as a parent, but when you're tired, I have noticed that I'm just like, oh God, like I'm just like, oh dear,
Mm,
just like whatever. Just I'll have to just let her cry for a bit, and then I can deal with it because I need
mm,
that breathing space as well. So I have to keep myself in check, and it does get harder when they go through that phase.
oh,
So
yeah, I
you've got all
can't.
that to look forward to.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, I've got that to look forward to. Abdullah, he'll cry. Mainly, he'll cry when he's tired. He's going
Mm,
through a phase. Ironically, we're talking about sleep, is where he's not never been much of a good sleeper anyway. But recently, he will just pass that window where he's meant to go to sleep,
mm,
and then he'll just get so overtired and he'll cry and he'll cry, and now he's developing it. He's 10 months, 10 and a half months. So he's developing more of a personality
mm.
and and now he does like lots of things that are like really like it's heartbreaking. Like he'll reach out to you or he'll flap his hands and he's so not dramatic in a negative way, but
Mm.
there's
No,
so much,
no.
you know, um physically as well as the crying that goes along with it. It is really heartbreaking.
Mm.
Um but like you
Can I
said,
ask?
when you're tired,
Yeah,
it's true
yeah.
just like, oh God.
Yeah, how do you, if you don't mind asking, how do you deal with that then? Like when you're when he's maybe going through a tough patch, he needs comforting, and you feel like you're maybe all touched out, you're maybe tired of all, like when you
Well,
get that, how do you deal with it?
so
Do you have any like
it's
tips or
recently
recommendations?
changed. So back, I'll work my way backwards. So now I'm actually so blessed. Alhamdulillah. So we'll talk about joint families a little bit later
Mm,
on. I live in a joint family, as do many people I know. But my mother-in-law is very, very elderly. Allah give her goodness. I mean,
mm,
um, so even though I live in a joint family, I don't get much help, and my husband works
mm,
long hours. So prior to the last month or so, I would say it was really, really
mm,
difficult. It was really difficult. There would be points where I would be so exhausted where I couldn't even move. As a story, actually, I'll tell you a little bit later about when he was first born, which sounds quite funny now, but it was frightening at the time. Um, but yeah, sorry, there's been times where I've been so exhausted, I've had to ask my mum, who lives about 45 minutes away, to come because I've just been so tired. But I can't think now actually what I guess you just survive. You're on
mm.
survival mode. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing I've been able to do.
Yeah,
I remember there's times I've been exhausted and I physically haven't been able to move. I've been sitting on the bed and
yeah,
I've been trying to entertain him. And I felt so awful because I'm like, this baby, obviously he wants to play.
just go to energy.
And he's
Yeah,
crawling now. So I have to like keep him on the bed so he doesn't fall off. but then I don't have any energy to play with him. So really, I'm just restraining him in a sense of keeping him distracted and then keeping him from falling off the bed. And there's been times where I haven't been, there's nothing you can do.
And it's worse when you're ill as well.
And when you're ill, it's much worse. But I was going to say, but recently, we've been getting a lot more help from extended family with regard to my mother-in-law's care. So it's meant that it's I've had more babysitters around, basically. So this last couple of weeks, I have been loving life. Abdullah's sleep has ever so slightly improved his routine, which is a blessing, which actually happened after the first show. I'm sure people must have been making dua, because after that request, that dua, his sleep did actually improve a little bit. Alhamdulillah. Allahumma barik. But yeah, now I get a bit more help. So it means that I can, so what I would usually do is I would just have to entertain him all day. Then when he goes to sleep, I would do all my chores. Now, because I've got a little bit of help or somebody to watch him, it means I can do all my chores before bedtime and go to sleep with him. So my sleep has improved a little bit.
Oh, glad to hear that.
But the story I was going to tell that was a bit funny, but not so funny, was I remember when he was first born and I was so exhausted that I thought I went blind. Every time I would open my eyes would, like, my eyeballs would roll back, and my husband was there in the middle of the night and I was being like, I'm blind. I literally can't see anything. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, all of a sudden, like, it's so random. And I'm like, I'm definitely blind. Because I either was opening my eyes and my eyes were just rolling back, or I thought my eyes were open, but they were actually closed. And that is the level of exhaustion is just like nothing else. You think that if you've studied or you've worked night shift or you've done extra shifts at work, or, you know, you've had deadlines, and, you know, remember back in uni days where you'd stay up all night for days and days, you know, hitting a deadline. But this level of exhaustion is just makes you think you go blind. So yeah, but coping wise, I've got some tips written down. But
is that towards the end?
No, inshallah, we'll talk about it now. But I want to ask you first if you had any, because for me, I've got some that, like I said, nothing really worked for me. For me, it was just survival. But was there anything for you, particularly in the early period, that you think helped?
In terms of like sleep in particular?
Yeah, maintaining your sleep, looking after your sleep.
For me, it was getting people to tag team. So my mum used to come and help me a lot in terms of I'll do this, I'll just watch the baby and you'll go have a rest, Miriam. My husband also used to just drive us. One day he just drove all the way out just for me to have a sleep in the car with the baby. But in the first few months, drive all the way to the Lake District and back, just so I can have a nap in the car.
That from you?
Sorry?
How far is that from you?
Oh, Lake District, it's like Cumbria. It's like 3 hours there, 3 hours back. And it's just so that I can like have a rest. But obviously we've got to have to look after the baby. So she's in the car with us, and it's like take her out, go for a 5-minute walk, and then just let me sleep again. And I remember just being in the car having naps a lot if we're not at home. And also it's just a way to sort of break up the routine of the day and the mundanity of like being at home, trying to recuperate, but also not feeling like sort of boxed up. So that really, really helped. But again, it only goes so far, because your sleep just doesn't feel the same as it was before. And I just think, even though now, alhamdulillah, she does almost sleep through the night, it still doesn't feel the same. Do you know what I mean?
Quality of sleep's not there.
Quality of sleep's not there. So even though you can have the quantity, the quality is not the same.
I think, I would hear that a lot. I think from my mum especially, it's like, once you have a kid, you're, what's the word for one of it? Not radar, but you're always aware, you're always alert. Even when you're asleep, your brain doesn't switch off, especially when they're a young child, I guess. So having that kind of instinct there, that means you never get to fully switch off. And I think that's probably the quality that's gone down. I think also another problem that a lot of people have, and when I used to speak to friends that had children that would do this, I would be understanding, but I would also like, obviously I couldn't fully understand. But there's a big conflict between, because they always say, experts, sleep when your baby sleeps.
Yes.
When your baby sleeps, you want to get things done because you can't get things done.
Carry on what you're going to say.
That's all I was going to introduce it to, because I knew you have something to say about it.
Sorry, this is
in a good way.
This is something that I agreed and disagreed with at first until the baby came. So basically, at first I was like, oh, forget it. This is my time to get everything done while the baby's sleeping. I'll, do the dishes. I'll do the dinner. I'll do this. I'll have my bath or whatever. And then something just clicked after a couple of months. I was like, no, this is my time to rest. I can't keep doing
Alhamdulillah.
this. So then I started sleeping when she sleeps. And then when she's awake, I would get on with doing the chores. And that was her entertainment until she got bored of that. But I didn't want to separate chores as just being an adult thing, because the more I started researching and learning about like how children grow up in home environments, if they see the parents taking like household work in their stride, you can introduce that to the child from a young age to show that this is normal. This is something that everyone in the household should partake in. It shouldn't be just something that's selectively just for adults, and it shouldn't be something that's selectively just for mums in particular to do. That it's only mums who do the dishes. So that I bought like that standing high chair.
Oh, the tower, the learning tower.
Yeah, so that I
can't
can
wait
get
to
her
get
involved.
that.
Yes, it's good to
inshallah.
just so that she can start like doing the dishes, wash her own hands, she lean over into the sink. And I've only just started this week because she's a bit older now. Trying to get her to do cooking with me.
Oh, that's
Like, so
good.
you mix all the flour together.
Have you got her the cutting set?
I've got it, but yeah, so it's still a learning curve.
Yeah,
but
she's still young.
I want her to get used to that. So I think that was what I learned, is that you do need to prioritize that when your baby sleeps, you sleep, and you can do your household chores with the child around. Like you don't need that separation of, oh, this is my time. Other than maybe having a bath, like a shower and stuff. That's it. So what about you?
Again, I agree and disagree. I'm back and forth on the subjects because, well, so I agree with them being involved in the learning because they do see it as entertainment.
Yes.
And it is a good way for them just to learn as well, as you said. And it's really good that you recognize that, because for a lot of people, in my experience that I came across, it was easier said than done. They would always be doing the, try to get things done. I see, the thing for me is, even though there's benefit in sleep, and sleeping when your baby sleeps, there's a certain satisfaction and dopamine hit you get from accomplishing a task.
I know.
So it's not as if like there's this one good thing and there's one, there's one nice thing and there's one not so nice thing. So the nice thing being the sleep and the not so nice being the tidying. Both things can actually bring a little bit of joy, as sad as it sounds, especially
I agree, yes.
when you have a child. How appealing is housework now? This is just me, maybe it's just me, but I don't know if it's just being away from the baby.
Yeah.
But just doing something different. But housework now has just hit another level of like enjoyment. And I think it is just basically just having that time by yourself to get things done. So at the beginning, I tried to get things done. Also, living in a joint family is a bit difficult because obviously you have to be considerate of other people in the house. But I would say in the last couple of months, probably because I'm just so exhausted, I've just kind of accepted the fact, no, that's what it is. I've accepted the fact that your house is never going to be the same.
Yes.
And I spoke to somebody, a sister, and I was just saying, I think the lad we were at a party, the lad spilt some food down himself, and she said, I said, a messy baby is a happy baby. And she said, and a messy home is a happy home. And I was like, I've not heard that one before. And it's true. Everybody that I've spoken to that have now had 2 or 3 children and are like really well experienced, said, you just have to accept that your house is never going to be the same. Your spouse has to accept that the house is never going to be tidy the way it was. And I think when I accepted that, it was able to let go, that's when I started to be more relaxed and more easy on myself. And then I started sleeping when he sleeps.
Yes.
And now I do that. He has, in his nap time, I'll sleep when he sleeps. On his big nap, on his short nap, it's just an awkward time, so I'd like to get things done. And then now he's kind of got a bit of a bedtime routine. I try to get everything done, even like my teeth brushed, Isha done, so that when he goes to sleep, I can go to sleep as well. And I do find that when you're sleeping next to them, because we co-sleep, he sleeps a lot longer and a lot better. And I'm sure I know research shows that as well. So I think our conversation's been like all over the place a little bit. So hopefully you guys are following us and are able to take something from it. But the one thing actually, now speaking about it, that I've realized is the biggest tip is just to realize that you can't do everything accept that your house is not going to be the same, and just let the chores go. The dishes will still be there when you wake up, or the laundry will still be there to fold when you wake up, and sleep when your baby sleeps. Because you have mentioned, we both mentioned, but you mentioned in particular, the empathy thing, the effects it can have. So yeah, so what are you going to say?
I was just going to say it, it does help, like, depending upon everyone's circumstances, right? Like how involved, like, the father of the child is in that sense, in terms of managing the household. It does help when you've got, like, two parents who are, like, sort of contributing. And obviously I can understand everyone's circumstances are different. Maybe one person's more of the breadwinner than the other, and obviously something's got to give. But it does help when you've got, like, an extra set of hands. So, like, what's something that we've been considering is that if we could afford it, willing to look into it, we have been offered, like, house cleaning services. Just like export that to, like, a third party, because it just makes one less thing to argue about between a household. And it's just and we've had someone offer it, like, like a very close friend who's, like, a cleaner. She goes, yeah, I'll come do the cleaning. Oh, I'd love to do it.
What are you waiting for?
I know, no, because it's that anxiety of, like, do you know how you seen those TV shows? You want to clean the house before the cleaner comes, because it's just like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So,
knew you were
and
going to
it's
say
just
that. There's a lot of it. I hear that with a lot of people that want to get cleaners, but exactly the same. They want to clean the house before the cleaners come, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Because it's just like, because it's not, if it feels like a territory, and it feels like it still feels like it's a third party coming in. Yeah,
that's fair
so
enough.
I'm just like, okay, so if we could afford to be in that situation where we can afford to do that, I think it'll be worthwhile.
Which is not even, I mean, that's a good example, but on a smaller scale, we have a laundrette at the end of the street where we live, and I'm very tempted. Sometimes I just can't be bothered because the washing machine's just there. But I know if we have big things like now, Abdullah co-sleeps, and obviously there's always going to be accidents. So for, like, the bedding and duvets and stuff, we'll just take it there. But sometimes I'm just like, if the laundry piles up, I'm like, oh, I should really just take it to the laundrette. So it's like you say, if you have the means, then outsourcing these tasks just makes life easier. But everybody, obviously, situation is different. And sometimes if you don't have the means, then having the right people is just as helpful.
I think that's why, like, sometimes some people can be in situations where they don't have, like, a support network around. And something I've been thinking about lately is, harnessing good relationships with people around you, like friends and family, that you can lean on in times of need. It's so vital, because as a society, as mums in particular, like we talked about this in the first show, I think, having a village of people that we can rely upon. And it's so vital to have that, because I just think, like, I'm just thinking now, if I didn't have, like, certain people around, I don't know how I would have, like, coped for these first 2 years. It's unbelievable. So it makes me just feel a lot more, I don't know, sympathy or empathy. I'm not quite sure what the term is, but, like, my heart goes out to those people that sometimes don't have those support networks for whatever reason. And it's like, and they've got kids, not just one, but multiple kids. It's like, how do people manage as single mums? It's unbelievable. Like,
for me,
superheroes.
I'm incredibly privileged, because I'm kind of in that situation where I don't really, I have people around me and they are really helpful and really lovely, but some of them have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Some of them have kids of their own, so it's just not possible. So I don't have that, but at the same time, I'm incredibly privileged because mum only lives 45 minutes away and she drives. So alhamdulillah, Allah reward her immensely. Like, the amount of times where I've just been at breaking point and I just like, please come. And she's been there straight away. So that is such a blessing. But all my sisters as well, they've like come and then like just watched Abdullah while sometimes
it's just the simple things, isn't it?
Or just company as well. The company of your siblings or your family, your mum, it just hits differently. So just having that sometimes is just there.
Because if it feels less isolating, doesn't it? Because entering motherhood for the first time, it can feel very daunting.
Massively so.
There's a lot of pressure. It feels like you have to sort of keep up with expectations. You shouldn't have to, but sometimes it feels like that you're having to keep up with people's expectations around you. And making sure that you're doing things right. And there's a lot of natural anxiety that comes with entering this new phase in life, because you've never done it before. You've never been in charge of a human being like your own child before. And so how, like I think you're right, having that company, even from people that you might least expect it from. Like, I'll give you an example. I was never close to my in-laws until I had my daughter. And now, like, I see them regularly on a weekly basis. Better relationships with my, like, sister-in-laws. for example, because like before then it's like you're all adults, you all have your own lives going on. So unless you're doing something specifically as a family get together, it's like you don't really have that relationship. But now it's like obviously they want to be around because I've got a child that they're an auntie to, which is fine. But also means that I actually can speak to them on a deeper level. So for me, I really appreciate that aspect, not just with them, but with other people in my life. Like now I can connect to other mums, other my friends who are already mums, for example, on a mum level. Now I can relate to them because do you know when you've got friends and they become mums, they become a mum way before you do. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. But your relationship's not the same, and then you enter that phase.
Shift.
Yes, and then like with us
mum
two,
club now.
Yes. Well, like, oh my gosh, like when you told me like you're gonna have Abdullah, I was like so excited. I was like, we're sort of going through this together in that sense, in this similar time period of life, and I was like, yes,
I know.
Alhamdulillah. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you were a wealth of knowledge, so I appreciated that, and still are. But yeah, it's just so tricky. Like I said at the beginning of the show, just like maneuvering your way around motherhood. And we say it as like first time mothers, but I think there's different challenges for sure, but challenges with each child. So it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 3 or 4 or 5. I think it's always going to be challenging because as we're talking about today, the physical effects physically, it's life changing. It's like nothing else. You know, the sleep, we talk about the quality of, we talk about not getting sleep, but as you mentioned rightly, the quality of sleep is not even there. So even if by some miracle you get to have a few hours, it's never going to be that sweet. And I love sleep. Like I'm a grandma. I'm like go to sleep at 9 o'clock depending on Isha and have like a good 10, 12 hours. Like I used to love my sleep, and now, so that's why I think all I talk about now with people is sleep, friends, family. All I talk about is my sleep and Abdullah's sleep. It must be so annoying, but it's heartbreaking just not to get a night. And sometimes I joke with my husband as well. I'm like, you get time off, although he's very helpful. But when I come to mum's, he gets a night off. I've never in 10 months had one night without Abdullah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Do you know what? That is exactly what happened to me. Right up until I got hospitalized, like in what month are we in? Are we in March? Last month. Like I'd never had a night apart from Amana since the day she was born, until I physically had to be apart from her, like and be in hospital. So and I feel bad saying this. I know especially when I say it like on air, but it's the truth. Going to hospital should not feel like a break, but it did feel like a break. I actually felt rested in the hospital.
I was going to ask you, despite obviously all like the illness, did you actually feel like relieved that you were awake? Yeah, I know I would feel like that.
Once the drugs did their job, and I was knocked out, and then I woke up the next day, right, and then alhamdulillah, like some of my problems got rectified in hospital. I actually did feel like, whoo, I needed this, like I needed to just not be with her, because you don't appreciate that, like your own alone time until like you're on your own.
That is a good point.
I shouldn't have had to wait until I was in hospital for that to happen, but now I appreciate like her being with her more. Like, do you know when you even have a few hours break in the day?
Definitely.
Like, sometimes, and now I'm just like say to my husband, like, right, there's no choice in the matter. You're going to look after her for a few hours. I need my own alone time. It makes me feel refreshed, even if it's just like three hours, whatever.
And don't you feel like a better mom?
Yes, and then I'm a bit more excited to be with her, because not only that, it's better for the child as well, not to be constantly around the same parent or adult or whatever.
And they pick up that the parent is just bored of them, which is awful to say. It's not personal to them, but obviously if you're with the child 24 hours
exactly.
Pretty much, naturally you're not going to be as like peppy and cheery.
Exactly. Now this is why this leads into the conversation we had before about like how dads usually, if it's the mum that the child's normally around, then dads are always seen as the fun parent.
Disneyland
and
dad, that's what it's called.
Is that what it's called?
I think I've heard it. I hope I'm applying it to the right context. But yeah, Disneyland dad, where it's a novelty of seeing them.
That's it, novelty.
Excited because it's a novelty for the child, because they're not obviously seeing that parent as much. There's novelty for the father as well,
because they've got the energy
and they're not like drained.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, and then sometimes when I get a bit short and I like get a bit frustrated, my partner will sometimes be like, he's kind, but sometimes it's okay, like, do you want to do? And I'm like, you don't know.
Stop patronizing me.
Because they only see that isolated moment, but they don't realize that this frustration has come from like hours and hours and hours, or days and days of like
exactly.
Abdullah's tooth's coming out, a teething
Yeah.
moment or whatever. So yeah, that's really, really funny. But yeah, the novelty is definitely there for them, and they
Yeah.
definitely have the energy as well. And I think as men and women we're just built differently as well. So it's
Yeah.
not just the physicality, but mentally as well, the hormones, what's happening internally, mentally, all of that. So yeah, so we should have just done a whole episode on sleep.
I
I think
know.
we
Feels
totally
like,
should.
yeah.
But I think for me, another thing that I've started to do now is in the morning, if my husband will go down for his cup of coffee, I've asked him to take Abdullah, and he'll kindly take Abdullah down so that I get a lie in, which is really, really good. So although actually that hasn't happened this week because Abdullah's sleep time has changed. So he's been getting up earlier. So I've actually been taking him down. Actually, this brings me to something else I wanted to mention that was like a little bit funny. I saw this on social media. We have now, because Abdullah's crawling, we're fortunate to have got a big playpen so he can like crawl around and I don't have to worry he's going to hurt himself.
Yes.
Although I still can't leave him because he starts crying when I leave him. But at least I know that I don't have to like physically restrain
you
him.
can be a bit hands-free.
Yeah, hands-free, that's it. And in the mornings I take him down. And I saw this on social media, like I said, where a woman just took a blanket in there and she just sleeps in the pen with the child.
We've done that.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I did that a few times. And I
just let them get on.
Yeah, I just got the big blanket, got all his toys set up and stuff, make sure he's okay. Obviously he's been fed and changed. And then I was like, okay, you play. And I just like
that's what I've had to do as well. It's like, because sometimes the child is happy to play, they just want you around.
Yeah, that's
like they just want to know that you're there. They want to be in your eyesight, or you want them. They want you in their eyesight.
Yeah.
And they don't care whether you're playing with them at that age. Sometimes it's just that they want the company. They want to know that their caregiver is around, in regards to what you're doing.
Yeah, he's played happily. And when independent play is very good for them anyway. You know, a lot of parents are like feel the need that they have to entertain their child all the time.
I know.
It's actually bad for them in some ways, because having that independence, allowing them to be bored, is really good for their creativity, their imagination, and all that kind of thing. And they'll usually tell you when they want your attention, or if they're bored, or for whatever reason. So yeah, he was fine. And then
and can I just say, you've done really well if you don't with the is there no screen time?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Wait, why is it?
Why is it?
Yeah. Okay, Allah Mubarak, because that is amazing, Maryam. Like, I wanted to be that parent that was just like, no screen time until like at least 2, and then you just quickly gave in. Like, I quickly gave in, but like
I will never say never.
Yeah.
So
of course.
never next week. It might
Allah Mubarak, that is so inspiring to know that you've got to almost 1 year with him, no screen time.
I can't believe it's nearly 1 year. That is, when you say like that, I'm like, oh, actually, mashallah, that's me. Oh yeah.
You've done amazing. Like, massive pat on the back.
No. I don't know. It's purely from Allah, because that's one thing. Other thing that I miss as well, because now I was never a big screen person anyway. But after the sleep conversation, the other thing I would go on about to people or complain about is, I don't get to watch much TV. I never watched much. One of my friends actually said you'd never watched TV before. So, but I think it's just that activity of just like being a vegetable and able to like watch something and just switch off. So, and I can't do that because I don't allow him to do it. I don't want to be one of those parents that do as I do. And as I say, but like I said, next week it could be something different. Everybody please keep me in your du'as that I get to keep them as screen free as possible. I don't know how I've done it, to be honest. And I don't know, when I didn't see it as a big thing, but now you said nearly 1. I'm like, oh, subhanAllah, that is quite a long time.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, like, because you don't drive either, so like you.
Yes.
Like from my perspective, because we've been able to get out and about and stuff as a family, but not all parents are like our drivers.
Massive restriction.
So it's so different as well. And when I think about like your journey, and I have been thinking about it over the past few months, I'm just like, how has Maryam managed? Because it's like you always use your own self, your own experiences as the sort of axis of comparison for other people. So when you hear about how other people do X, Y, and Z, you always think about your own self as like the base point. So I'm just like, oh my God, and Maryam's like a superhero, you know. And I haven't congratulated you enough, because I have thought like, damn, she's like, Allah Mubarak, like a mint mom doing this.
Not really. All from Allah. Allah has made things so easy. Example of this is we'll talk more about this when we do our mental health episode, but there's a family hub, and it's so bizarre because I'd lived in the town that I live in for not too long, about 6 months before I got pregnant. Enough time. Mariam knows me. Anybody who knows me knows I like to explore and like, see
So
what's
what's a
happening.
family hub again? Just for those that don't know.
So then I will get to that. So then, but I didn't know this. I didn't need to know it existed, to be honest, because I didn't have any need for it. And the funny thing is, so a family hub is, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's basically like a parent center where they have like various activities, educational courses for parents, like weaning, breastfeeding, safety, but then also like messy play, and it's all usually free. And I didn't know. I knew all the ones here in the Tyneside, because obviously I've lived here all my life. So, and I work with young people, so I knew. But where I live now, I didn't know anything, and it's really funny because it's actually I was here at the hospital, and a lady. And actually, what was it? I was having my glucose test. That's what it was. And you have to sit there for quite a while. And there's another lady there, and I was just having a conversation with her. And she literally Googled it. And she said, there's a family hub in the town that I live in. And I was like, oh, really? Where is it? And subhanAllah, just getting to my point that it's all from Allah. It's literally at the end of the street. Can you believe that? And that is one thing that I'll definitely talk more about in the next episode that helped me massively, because even the staff there, even on the days where there was no class on, they would literally just sit with you in the reception for 2-3 hours and listen to you talk. I can't believe like the blessings that Allah has like sent my way. It just gives me goosebumps, subhanallah. So yeah, but Jazakallah khair, it's always nice to hear. But yeah, all from Allah. And let's keep.
Should we
mention our sponsor?
Yes, I was just going to say, do you have any comments? And just while we look for the comments, the sponsor is
One Nation Childcare.
But One Nation Childcare is a nursery?
Yes, it's a nursery and a childcare.
Oh yeah, childcare centre.
In the name, Mariam.
Based in Newcastle. So if you're interested, you can look for their details on the Stream Islam social media. There's lots of like posts on there directing you to how to get in touch with them if you're interested.
We've been talking so much, and I've totally went off script as well. I love that about me and Mariam. When we get together, we can just talk and talk. But let's go to our comments and see what everybody else is saying, inshallah. Okay,
so I think everyone's just happy to be listening right now. So would you like a break, or should we continue?
Yeah, let's have a break, inshallah, and then
we'll
be right back.
We'll have a couple of minutes break and we'll be back in about 2-3 minutes.
Ashhadu anna la ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. It is the religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for us. And now it is our obligation, brothers and sisters, to share this message with others. The Islamic Diversity Center has been spreading this beautiful message of Islam through our educational workshops, through our exhibition and live events, and most importantly, we are there supporting those that accept Islam, supporting them through education, through social events, and even those that are in financial difficulty. Brothers and sisters, imagine you make a donation to support this work, and alhamdulillah, somebody accepts Islam. You will be getting reward for every single thing that they do, every salah that they pray, every dua that they make, every knowledge that they gain and that they pass on to their future generation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put those good deeds on your scales on the Day of Judgment. Subhanallah, this is an amazing opportunity. So brothers and sisters, I encourage you all to make a donation as much as you can so we can continue doing this amazing work. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to How to Raise a Happy Mum with me, Abdullah, and my guest here, Mariam. I was going to say but I don't know if you want to.
I think we've got Mariam Khan.
I don't know if you mentioned. Have you mentioned your daughter's name? Some people are a bit like that, so I didn't want to mention.
I get her mixed up with the cat sometimes. I'm not even kidding. I just sometimes I go Choto, and I go, it's not your name.
Choto, that's what we'll call you. During the break, we were just talking about what we're having for iftar, and what our plans were, which brings us actually perfectly onto our next point in how to sustain ourselves physically after having a child, which is how to nourish your body and how to feed your body. And and feed yourself, basically. And that's one thing I struggled with for many different reasons. Other than the obvious that you're just exhausted. But how was your experience with that before I go on?
In the very initial period, do you know, like when you're literally giving birth, I think I mentioned this, I might have mentioned it briefly in the first show. Do you know, like people helping was helpful.
Oh yes.
But people sending food or giving me like a £50 Just Eat voucher, for example.
Oh, that's such a clever idea.
Yes, like for friends who couldn't cook, for example, maybe they've got like a tiny kitchen, so they would just give me like one of them sent a £50 food voucher for Just to Eat, so I could order what I wanted. One sent one sister, Allah Mubarak, she's not Pakistani, but just sent me like a Pakistani catering, like full on 2 whole trays, platters of food, of like biryani, salin, lasagna, just like pakore, samosa, just like everything. And I'm like, that's amazing. And obviously my mum cooking and stuff helped, and things like that. So
wow.
Yeah, and then that was, I mean, it was just that they were probably the most helpful things, and that was enough. You know, the amount of, and then obviously other IDC sisters coming dropping off food as well, which was nice. Alhamdulillah, that I appreciate, and I'm remembering all of that now. That was enough to keep me going until I was back on my feet, ready to just start doing things myself again.
That's incredible.
So that was helpful. But I think your point was about like doing as much prep work or cutting out prep work.
We were talking in the break. I was talking about, actually, but you've threw me now, because I'm always looking at what you can get for a new mum, and people always do say like cook something, but the voucher is just like, and I love gifting, so if I hear a new gift idea, that's definitely one I'm going to take a mental note of.
Sorry, I need to mention this. It's really, really vital, actually. There's a sister, IDC sister, like from the past. She's got 2 kids now. You know who I'm talking about, I think. She's got a page called Meals for Mama. She set it up. Sister Anna. She set it up. She set that up, I think, maybe after she had her kid, her first child. And when she found out, obviously I had my daughter, and she got other sisters arranged, just even strangers I've never known,
I've not heard of this,
to
actually.
cook. She's got an Instagram page.
Now, I'm not in the city.
It's called Meals for Mama. It's like basically a service across the city where anyone who's a new mum, they can just get in touch with that page, and she'll arrange other sisters to cook and drop the food off. It's basically a network service of like, oh, can anyone cook if there's a new mum? So there's 3 people in the household, 2 adults, a child, whatever, or 2 adults, 2 children, who can cook for this family, and she'll arrange like a couple of times a week for someone to come for however long you need.
My mind is blown.
I know, alhamdulillah, like that was such an amazing service. So I just remembered I had so many different people coming to drop food off. It was amazing, including her herself. But that was so helpful, because like there's this one sister who'd come all the way from Newcastle with like huge roast chickens and rice stuffed peppers and things like that. And I didn't know who she was. I didn't know who she was. And she was dropping off food for me and my husband, like while I'm, sitting there breastfeeding, just like, and he's just like, obviously like a man who's not used to the kitchen, so like he hadn't cooked, and that was so useful. Like,
wow.
Allah reward Sister Anna so much for that.
Incredible. Because I wish there was something like that in my town.
Yeah. Oh my.
She needs to extend the service.
Yeah, it's basically like she just got people like connected to the mum, and then it's just basically she was like the middleman, and getting the sisters who can cook to then just transfer their details over. Like obviously, like I'll make this for you. Got any allergies? No, that's fine. That's it. I'll drop it off. And I think I did use that service to help Anna when she had her second child, because she did have allergies with her little one. So me and my mum cooked a little bit, which was like basically
so
vegan.
Nice.
So that was helpful.
If you're listening, please extend that to neighboring regions.
Allah Mubarak, it was amazing. So food, it was helpful.
You know what? It's really funny you should say that, because as I was planning for this show, I was thinking that what would be ideal, but it's not within everybody's means, so I wasn't going to mention it. Was meal prep services. You have meals ready made. Because somebody mentioned that to me, and like I said, it's just not always within everybody's means. But that is like the perfect like alternative, because you've got like meal prep service, but obviously not having to. That is incredible. It's going to take me a second to process that. That's such a good idea. I've not ever heard anything like that before.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's
genius.
Fantastic. Yeah. So how about after the newborn period?
Yes. So by then it was, alhamdulillah, by then I was starting to get like used to just doing meals, which were very quick and easy. So I wasn't going into the full on like curry and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Was a long time after that. I don't think I cooked curry for ages. As an Asian, that's weird to not cook curry, right? Just to clarify that. I was just getting myself used to making really quick, simple meals that just didn't take too much effort or energy. Or do you know, like things that you can marinate yourself? So if you've got the brain space to like think about what you want to eat the next day or 2 days from now, buy the meat and then marinate it so they can just chuck it in the oven and eat. So like that type of stuff.
See, yeah. So we were just talking in the break about that. I don't know if I mentioned it on air as well, but yeah, you did briefly. Shopping cleverly. So I was never one. I used to like doing things from scratch and being like eating whole foods and nothing processed and no takeaways. Anybody who knows me is going to be laughing now because now I am just all I consume now is it's terrible. Just takeaways and sugar. That's literally all I have. And I was never a sugar person because of the health thing, but I never had a sweet tooth as well, which helped. And now all I consume is takeaways and sugar. And I'm so sad, but it is what it is.
You're making up for everything that you didn't have in your 20s.
Yeah, literally. I
So
never like, you can make fish and chips at home or you can, whatever. And if it did go out, it was usually like a healthier, it was never like, I don't know, unhealthy, whatever, unhealthy takeaways, processed stuff. But I was saying to Marion that one thing that you can do, like I said, is shopping cleverly. So although I didn't like pre-made stuff, things like packet rice and packet quinoa, lifesaver. Things like already, the mix the salads or the stir fries that are already made. Pre-made stuff, if you shop cleverly enough, like I said, if you've got the brain space, then it can make, all you need is like an air fryer or like.
But do you know what? I agree with you. I think that's absolutely fine because we are surrounded by so much on social media, and I don't know if you've seen recently what's making the rounds on TikTok. Have you heard of a content creator influencer called Nara Smith?
No.
Have you not seen it? And she's someone, she's South African and German, and her husband's a model, and all she does on her like videos, she has a really like soothing melodic voice. Like she's the type of person who could be on Audible, for example, and she just makes these videos of for example, she'll say this, and everyone's
very slow.
Everyone takes the mick out of her.
Yes,
like,
I've seen it.
I asked my kids what they wanted for lunch today. They said they wanted a cheese toastie, so I got started with that. I started making the bread, and I did the mozzarella. Recently. I made the cheese. I made the pesto, and I did this, and it's like people are just taking the mick.
Swipe.
No. Do you know what? And at first I was like, oh my gosh. But then you're surrounded by that influence, because she's not the only creator that does this. Everything from scratch, making the butter from scratch, making the milk from scratch, the cheese from scratch.
Pesto from scratch.
Everything is from scratch. And people are like, how does she do it? And it's, well, people are saying, well, she's looked after and she's in her energy type of thing. Yeah. But I think when you're surrounded by that and you're just always seeing it, and then people are trying to replicate that, they don't realize that's just one side of social media. And as a mum, it's not realistic because not everyone has the same family dynamic and setup as these people who are minted, who have got that luxury of just being able to just afford X, Y, and Z to do that. Because people are asking, like,
and remember, this is their job as well.
Yes, exactly, to create content. So I think, getting shortcuts when you need them is absolutely useful because, like I said, I was probably closer to how old your son is now when I started feeling like getting back to normal, like 8, 9, 10 months onwards, when I started feeling I'm okay physically, I'm okay, getting back into my old swing of like cooking without it being problematic. But before then, believe you me, we lived on takeaways for a while as well. Like at one point, and we were like, oh, we're spending a lot of money on takeaways. This is not good for our health. I'm getting another gallstone attack. This is not great. And alhamdulillah, now we've gone through it. Hopefully for you it's just a phase like it was for us, because now I'm back into the habit of cooking. That we haven't ordered to take. Well, I don't know about my husband, but I haven't ordered a takeaway for months, months and months. And we've only just started going out to eat every now and then. Like we didn't even go out for food, a restaurant for a very long time, up until maybe this year, when our daughter's like 2 years old. So. Even then, it's like I take a look back and think I've actually not done too bad. I've gone through that slump, which is what you have.
Natural. It's gonna happen.
Exactly.
You're on survival.
You need it, and it's helpful as well when you need those shortcuts, because it makes your life a little bit easier, and it gives you that extra little bit of energy you need to look after your child. Then so be it.
The energy and the time as well. Because if you've got those shortcuts, obviously you're cutting back on time as well, preparation. Are there any shortcuts that you could recommend to people?
In terms of food-wise?
Food-wise.
I think this is something that was probably more applicable to when you're just before you give birth, so the few weeks before you're
Mm.
due to give birth, is, you know, if you've got the space,
Freezer.
like we didn't have, we have got such a small house, partner, but
Mm.
I don't been grateful, but we will always want a deep chest freezer.
Oh,
But those that can afford it or who've got the space for it,
yeah.
if you've got like extra freezer space, is pre-cook loads of meals before you give birth, for example, and batch freeze them into portion sizes. So when you are ready to eat, if you haven't like got people cooking for you after you've given birth, for example, you can just get out food that you've already made when you were like a child free.
Yeah.
And you can eat that. And I suppose that's probably advice you give to yourself even later on after you've given birth.
Massively, I'm a massive freezer
Yeah,
fan.
like you, if you're going to cook like if you're Asian, you're going to cook curry, for example, maybe just cook a little bit extra and freeze it.
Yes.
So on those rainy days when you just cannot be bothered, it's something that you can just pull out from the freezer and you've got food that's home cooked and you don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have
You
to
know where
spend money.
everything's come from. You make it yourself. Yeah.
So
that's,
that
yeah.
helps.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go on.
So this is just reminding me. I just need to go look for a good deep chest freezer because I really want to do that still. Like we want to buy. Do you know when we did that at Kika?
Yeah.
Like we did it quite late. We did it when she was 4 months old. But then it made me realize how much cheaper it is to buy that meat, buy the whole animal and not just a portion, because £18 a kilo for some boneless lamb is just, it's too expensive, man. But if you can buy it and you know, obviously have it all cut up and put in the freezer, then it's like what, £5, £6, £7 a kilo. It's such a huge difference.
That is
having that meat. So stuff like that is just planning ahead. Even for people who don't like to cook, I don't mind cooking now. Like now that I'm much older, I actually quite enjoy it. But for some people, they don't like cooking. They just don't like the process of it. They find it as another chore. I don't know about you, like how do you find?
I enjoy. I've always enjoyed cooking, but I'm sure they won't mind me saying, my in-laws, on some of them are just not that foodie.
Yeah,
they just don't have that passion. Sometimes it's health related and things like that. So I feel like, and they have certain dietary requirements. So if I'm ever cooking, I'm usually just cooking for myself. And my husband's they're good with food. I love my barik, but it's usually I'm just cooking for myself.
Yeah,
and it's just. When you're cooking for yourself, you just can't be bothered. So
I find it's like
I'll just make a sandwich or something. So I really did enjoy cooking, but I find myself now just not enjoying it as much because I think part of the joy of cooking is feeding people. Yes. That's the main thing. And if you're not feeding people, it's just like...
do you know what? I went through a sandwich phase. You just reminded me. There was like one phase.
We went through a sandwich phase when we worked together, remember?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Every time I make that sandwich, I always think of you.
Maybe I've never left the sandwich phase. Maybe it's just still there in the background.
Sandwiches are sandwiches for life.
Yeah, but I think you're right. You know, when you've... I think me and you might be similar. My mum's the same. My mum is definitely the same. She has no enthusiasm, and my mother-in-law's the same actually. We all have no enthusiasm to like cook when you know it's just cooking for yourself. But when you know there's other people who are going to be partaking in that meal, you actually make it with the love and passion and energy. You know, you've got that like zest for it.
Yeah.
And that is so true because do you know, like I said, for those that don't want to cook, they don't care about it.
Those people don't mind eating anything either.
Yes.
I find.
Yeah, and then for those people, it's useful for them to batch cook, so they don't have to cook regularly.
And they can eat the same thing again and again.
Yeah,
and again.
I think that's helpful. Actually, that's probably quite a good piece of advice.
Yeah. Before we go on to continue, we'll ask Sister Sarah if we've got any comments.
Chest freezers get messy.
I was just thinking about this, sister. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Gigi. We really missed you. I was just thinking about you the other day. So thank you for your comment. They can be messy. I've never had the experience. I don't know.
So we'll have to buy one. We'll have to buy one and test that theory out. But I can imagine, because it's like
it's a lot of stuff. I imagine. Yeah. Well, you know, you get those now. The big trend online is fridge organizers. Somebody needs to start like a freezer organizer. Kind of trend. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Sorry, I'm reading them quietly. I should be reading them loudly.
Yes, that's fine.
Loving discussions. Allahumma barik. I forgot how hard being a mum of a young child was. Jazakallah khair. That's really, really kind of you.
I'm glad you're listening as well, Gigi, because we haven't seen you for ages.
Yeah, we really, really miss you. And your kids are gorgeous and you've done such a fantastic job. Allahumma barik.
Do you know what?
Give them goodness.
I mean, I said this to Gigi actually. I've got no relation to Gigi, but I'm so proud of her son and how far he's came.
Allahumma
I don't know if you've seen like how well he's done for himself. Like he's got like a PT training. He's a personal trainer.
Oh no.
Like in my head, they're still little kids, but no, he's a grown man, and her daughter's not 3 anymore. She's like, I don't know, like teenager, and I'm just.
Remember when she was a baby?
Yes. Oh my God, Allah
Oh.
Mubarak. And I told you this. I'm just from a distance. I'm so proud of like how well she's raised her children and
Allah reward you
her
massively.
son.
And give you ease.
I mean,
and give them goodness.
Gigi's a good example for me as an inspiration on like you can raise your children the way you want and raise them right, especially when she's educated them.
Yeah.
Like with Islam, like everything else after that is just so that I find that inspiring. Like, you know, when it comes to how to raise a happy mum, sometimes it's just you get that peace and contentment maybe once you've seen how your kids have turned out. And
that's very,
like honestly, we've just blinked and her kids have grown up, you know what I mean? And we're gonna blink again, it'll be our kids who've grown up and we're like, where did the time go?
Inshallah, if we can do half a good job. Gigi, you need to be giving us advice, inshallah. We're the newbies, you're well experienced. Jazakallah khair for interacting. Jazakallah sisters. I was blessed to have amazing sisters at IDC. We were blessed to have you, and we're still blessed to have you. And inshallah, we'll catch up soon. But yeah, give our salam to the not so kiddos. They're grown adults now.
The not so little children.
The not so little children, yes. Is that all for the comments, Sister Sarah? We've got 5 minutes left, so we'll wrap up. But yes, so that was a little bit about how to maintain our physical health. So we talk about sleep, which is important. And
that was a huge part of that.
I think that was just me, like just getting that out. And then I think we could have spoken about food equally as long. Another thing, actually, taking your vitamins. Again, all of this advice I never did and I don't do. So this is advice to me. So that's just me saying that it's easier said than done. And just because we're saying it doesn't mean that everybody needs to do it. Everybody's situation is different. This is just advice for, inshallah, somebody will take something
like
from
general
it.
advice.
Yes. So this is advice to myself as well. Taking your vitamins. I think that's really, really important, and looking after yourself physically. That and water, obviously. I don't mention water because water is not a thing for me. I'm such a terrible water drinker, so it didn't even occur to me. But I know drinking water, obviously, especially if you're breastfeeding. I'm on formula because it didn't work for me, unfortunately. But you know, for breastfeeding mums as well, like feeding yourself is so much more important because obviously it can affect the production of the milk as well. So yeah, so that was a little bit on feeding yourself. Another little point I was going to say, and we'll literally do this in the like 30-second little bite, is like showering yourself and like keeping yourself clean.
Oh my gosh,
it's so hard when you're covered in like sick and milk and everything, and it's just like, so having that time, I found that, I know it's really, really weird, but I found that especially not at the newborn phase, but a few months after, there was a slight consistency with his feeds. He kind of gauged when he would feed, and 3 o'clock. Or like it's, I don't know, 3 o'clock, but middle of the night feed. When I know he's fed, he's changed, he's not going to wake up, I would go in the bathroom and do what I need to do. And so so finding that bit of time, like I said, if your spouse is home before they go to work, or when they come back from work, or you know, sometimes you know your child is being looked after. Although a lot of the time at the beginning, I'm sure this is the case for most parents, I'd take up the line with me. The little bouncer and just like entertain him in the shower. So but yeah, finding that time to
do the basics,
take care of your hygiene if you can, makes you feel, not for anybody else, just for yourself, just makes you feel better, energizes you. And it's like, you know, they say about working from home, if you stay in your pajamas, you're never as productive, but if you get changed and put like actual outside clothes on, you're more productive. Same with, I think, if you're like a bit like clean, and if you live by yourself, like, you know, put some perfume on or whatever in the house and make yourself feel good physically, I think that will obviously affect you mentally, and then obviously affect your productivity and your parenting as well. So yeah, so that was just a little bit I wanted to add to the end. So that was how to look after yourself physically. Any final thoughts, Mariam?
No, I think that's probably like covered a lot of a big chunk of it. Food and sleep and hygiene, that's probably 3 main points. I mean, there would be one more point I would make about like, you know, physically active and the pressure to sort of maybe I heard they've heard the phrase bounce back. Like if you've had like a certain figure before you were pregnant, then sometimes there's that pressure, because when you think about physical health, that's what I think of as well. But I suppose we can keep that for the next topic.
That was a point I had down, but obviously we ran out of time, unfortunately. But that is, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I actually forgot. Yeah, and you know what? just to add to that really, really quickly, something as simple, if you are able to physically, and obviously depending on when you have the baby as well. I had mine in May, so the weather was obviously turning a lot better. So there's lots of factors, but if you can, just walking up and down the street, walking is an incredible exercise. So if you can, then I think that is something that's just so underrated. It doesn't have to be an exercise class. It doesn't have to be, doing this, doing that, using this equipment, that equipment. Just walking with your baby, and obviously, the fresh air and the daylight is so good for your child as well. It helps with their sleep. The more vitamin D they get, the more melatonin they get, and it helps them with their sleep.
Good for your mental health as well.
And it's good for your mental health as well. So
which we'll talk about next week.
Inshallah. So Jazakallah khair for listening. This has been How to Raise a Happier Mum with me, Abdullah, and Mariam, and Sister Sarah producing. Jazakallah khair. I hope everybody has a nice iftar and a good week, and inshallah we'll see you again next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.